Hey guys, Robin with Big Doodle Dreams, and this is Jenny. Jenny is a Sprudel. She's a first generation Sprudel, and she did retire from me. She had puppies here, and she retired from me, and she lives local now, so it's very nice that I'm able to have her visit and get my hands on her, and I get to groom her, and it's nice that she's here. But what I want to share with you is that she only had one litter, and that's not typical. Normally I like the girls to have a couple of litters before they retire, but we made the decision at the end of her first litter because her first litter was 12 puppies. And 12 puppies is way too many puppies to raise. So we managed and did just fine. And if you're watching through my videos, Jenny has her own video on my YouTube channel. It is the introduction to the Sprudel. She is the girl that I used. But also, if you've been watching my current recent videos, you would see Miss Molly, which is the black Sprudel. A video just maybe 5 days before this video goes out. So very recent video. That is her daughter. But she only had one litter, and it is because she had 12. And it's interesting because genetically, typically, if the mother has 5 or 6, then typically the offspring will also have just 5 or 6. And that was not the case for her. She had 12. And it was way too much work and way too hard on her, and therefore the decision was made to retire her. But I get a lot of questions related to breeding, and those questions I try my best to answer, and I figured maybe if I put out a video and explain some of the stuff that goes along with trying to breed dogs, that might help to answer some questions. But ironically, I've heard it all. I've had people that say, well, I want a brother and a sister and I'm going to have babies, and I'm going, no, you're not going to do that. I've had others that want to raise their male dog and keep it intact and then use it as a stud. And again, I frown on that because an intact male is not the same as a neutered male. There's a tremendous difference, I promise you, from an intact male to a neutered male. I'm not saying that people can't. Yes, people are successful in keeping their males intact and being able to do that, but the temperament overall, and this is with a lot of experience. The temperament overall of an intact male can be very, very, very challenging, and that's probably the hardest part. That challenging component for a male. So let's just talk about some of the ins and outs of it, because everybody seems to think you just stick 2 dogs together and they breed and then they have babies, and that's not accurate. It's not accurate at all. I've had times where I've bred a girl and they don't come up pregnant. I've had times where they breed one time and they have 9 puppies. So every girl is different. Some of the things that I will tell you that is absolutely of utmost importance. One is that the parent dogs are totally health tested. If you can't afford health testing, you can't afford to raise puppies. Puppies are expensive. I don't think people realize that. They think that they just nurse from mom the entire time and there's no work, and that's not accurate. Not only will they take up time and space and your energy, oh my goodness, they take up time, space, energy, financial. Oh, and goodness, if you have an issue where you have to go to the vet, like say an emergency cesarean, again, emergency cesarean, very expensive. Very expensive. Not something that you know you would want to go into it thinking that it's just going to be a breeze and you're going to make money in the end, because that is not accurate. If you're not raising puppies, you know, throughout the year, if you're not doing this as you know, part-time or full-time, then having one litter is probably not going to be as financially beneficial as what you may think. Because if you're not prepared, you're then having to purchase lots of items that you may or may not use again. You're having to prepare, you're having to get things ready, and then even when they arrive, you may go, oh gosh, I wish I would have done that or thought of that, and suddenly you're spending more money. But any emergency that comes from it, that's an expense. Raising is an expense. Health testing is an expense. And so here's the next thing I'm going to tell you. Let's just say you only have a girl. You only have a girl dog. And you run the health testing and it's perfect. Does that mean that you don't have to worry about the male and what his health testing is? No, not at all. You have to have the health testing on both parents. Because if you breed, if you have a nice, clean, genetically clean female, and you breed her to a male that was not genetically clean, has some issues in the background, you're essentially putting those issues into the offspring. And that's not what you want to do. You want to produce the healthiest puppies. You wouldn't want to produce puppies that are going to have problems. So no, just because your girl might have perfect health testing does not mean that you can just get away with it and it won't matter, because that's not accurate either. Delivery, oh yeah. Most girls decide to deliver in the middle of the night. I swear to you, they will hold out all day long. You're going to think they're going to deliver. You think they're going to deliver. You think they're going to deliver. And they just don't. Kind of goes on all day where they're digging and panting and digging and digging and nesting the entire day. And then you're going, oh my gosh, I've been up. I've watched her and watched her. And now it's 11, 12 o'clock at night and I'm exhausted. And you head off to bed, and within an hour, out comes the first puppy. And then you're up. You have to stay up. Because when puppies are born, you don't know what's going to happen. And especially if this is a mom that has never been a mom. It's her first litter. If it's her first litter, oh my goodness, the stories I could tell. I had one girl, and this is quite a few years ago, and that first puppy that came out, the placenta remained inside, and the pup was hanging by the umbilical cord in the sac. So hanging out the back end, and kind of, so as she's standing, the puppy's hanging, and I'm reaching in, trying to keep the puppy upward from being so pulled, you know, that way. But once she realized there was something hanging out her back end, she's turning around looking at it, and then she starts freaking out. She's like, it's getting me. She thought it was getting her. She really did. And tried to run with a puppy hanging out the back end. So you never know what you're going to encounter when you begin that delivering process. I've had where you've got puppies on their way out and two get caught in the birth canal. And if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to wind up having to go to the vet and having to go through an emergency cesarean. You can't just jerk and pull on puppies and make them come out. That's not, you will injure the puppies. So all these things comes with experience. And yes, having a really good relationship with your vet so that you can call and you can say, I don't know what to do. Give me guidance rather than just rushing your mama in. But delivering is probably one of the most difficult parts, and you do have to be there. I've got story after story. I've got one mom, brand new mom, and like I've always said, the dogs are born in my house. So I was making dinner in the kitchen, and I'm in the kitchen, and I knew my girl was in labor, but she had been in labor for hours. And she kept poking her head out and looking at me I'm in the kitchen cooking, and she would poke her head out of the whelping box and look over at me. Okay, well, I mean, nothing yet, nothing yet. So I'm like, all right, she's not. And she kept circling and digging and panting and looking out, circling and digging and panting and looking out. Once I was done with some of the food I was making, I walked over just to check. I didn't think anything had happened. She didn't make any, there was no sound, nothing, nothing that would have alarmed me to think something was wrong. But while I was in the kitchen, only 10 feet away, she had actually delivered 3 puppies. 3. She delivered them and dropped them right there in the whelping box. She didn't clean them up. They were still in the sack. And they were 3 separate because they were dumped in different areas of the whelping box. So when I initially looked, I only saw the one. I'm like, what are you doing? And of course I reach in and I grab the one. Then I begin to look some more, and I'm going, oh my goodness, here's another and another. And they were still in their sack. Now, once they leave mom and the placenta is, everything is disattached, they need to be out of that sack and breathing. And she did not do that. So you never know what you're going to encounter. So in that instance, I didn't have a choice. I had to sit there and open up every single sack and then revive all the puppies. When I say revive, I mean suction bolt to remove the fluid from their lungs. I hate to say that it's not. I'd love to say, oh yes, raising puppies is so easy. No, it is not easy. It is not for the faint of heart. It is not for someone who is squeamish, because the stuff that comes out with every single puppy, oh yeah, it stinks. It stinks really, really, really bad. And the smell does not go away for a while. That smell kind of hangs around, and it's not fun. But no, the amount of all the different challenges that can occur during that are, it's amazing, because I always think, gosh, I thought I knew it all, and then something else will happen, and I'm going, how in the world? It blows my mind, because I always think, there's nothing else that could go wrong, and then it's like, okay, well, we had a litter of 12. Okay, well, we had one that delivered them and didn't tell us she was delivering them, and sometimes you'll encounter a mom that doesn't really like being a mom. I've had that, where they'll have their babies, and they're willing to feed them, but they're not hanging out with them. They don't care to hang out with them. They will feed them and then leave them, and they don't give that same level of nurturing component to them. So, if you're considering breeding dogs, start taking into account some of what I'm telling you, because I'm being very accurate. It is a lot of work. It's a lot of cleanup. It's financial. It's preparation. Holy cow. So something else I did want to share, because I guess the information is just not out there enough, but when it comes to releasing puppies, when you finally think you've reached that point where puppies are going to be getting to go home, well, they have to be 8 weeks. It's federal law. If you release puppies at 7 weeks or 6 weeks, you're breaking federal law. So you have to release them older than 8 weeks. They're weaned. They're eating on their own. They are making a mess. It is everywhere. It is way more work. Because most puppies are weaned between 5 and 6 weeks. typically. Now, smaller breeds take longer. Larger litters can be a bigger challenge because obviously lower birth weight. A mom that has 12 puppies, if she had 6, the 6 would have been 10 or 12 ounces versus 12 puppies where they're all going to be 6, 7, 8 ounces. So there is a difference on large litter versus small litter. So here's something else to take into account. Brucellosis. Yep, probably didn't hear that one. Brucellosis is an STD in dogs, but it's an STD in all sorts of animals, specifically mammals, and it is most commonly or frequently seen on farms because it's something that cows will have, and when they deliver their calf, the afterbirth sits there in the field. Well, if a dog comes along and eats the afterbirth, and yes, they do, and I know that sounds disgusting, sorry, but if there's a dog in the field and he comes along and eats it and it was infected, that dog now has brucellosis. So brucellosis is an STD. Brucellosis makes it so that if that dog procreates, the puppies will die. And they'll make it all the way through delivery. They won't die, they won't die in utero and be aborted. They will literally die after they're born and after they have been alive. No, I've never experienced that. I plan to never experience that because brucellosis is a highly contagious STD. It is not something that that you would want to fool around with. It's something that you can't get rid of. If you have an animal get it, whatever animals that dog has been around, they are at risk, and you would have to have everything tested. But it is a very dangerous STD when you're talking about having puppies. So if you are a pet owner and you have the most beautiful dog in the world and you want puppies because it's the best dog you've ever had and they're beautiful and they couldn't possibly produce anything bad, well, if you do everything right, then no, they're not going to produce anything bad for you. But everything right means putting forth all that effort for health testing of both parents, testing for brucellosis, and then of course, because once you test, the dog can still catch brucellosis. So that means that you now have to keep your pet away from other pets. So if you're a person that likes to go to the dog park and hang out and go places, just skip the whole breeding thing. A dog can get brucellosis and you wouldn't know. It's not something you're going to know. Typically, people don't find out until after they have bred their dog, and that's when they find out. And that's when it's too late. You don't want to do that. So, even with the things I mentioned, okay, and like I said, you got the most beautiful dog on the planet. You want to have pups, okay? I hope you got free time and the ability to manage, because if you've got a litter of 8 or 9, that's a lot of puppies. They grow very quickly. Depending upon the size, but your average medium large dog, by the time you're 8 weeks, these puppies are 10 pounds and more. They're eating, and one litter of puppies goes through about 40 pounds of dog food every 3 days. That's a lot of food, and it's really expensive. Food is not cheap, and you can't just raise them on any food. You wouldn't want to raise them on the garbagey food. You want to raise them on something healthy. You don't want to just raise them on anything. So yeah, food is expensive. Puppies start vaccinations at 6 weeks. Again, another expense. You're gonna do it right. You need to microchip them. They need to get microchipped. Yep, another expense. Oh yeah, probably didn't mention deworming. Deworming is something that you have to do with your puppies too. And that starts at the second week. So when they're 2 weeks old is when that all begins. Because whatever mom had as far as worms or has picked up whatever in the yard, it gets passed to the puppies through their milk. Oh gosh, yeah, what happens if mom doesn't have milk? Can you bottle feed? Yeah, bottle feeding is really hard, and I actually don't recommend it. If you have a mom that doesn't have milk, didn't produce milk, and the puppies are needing milk, then and they're itty bitty, so let's just say right after delivery, not puppies that are 5 weeks, itty bitty, just born. I don't recommend a bottle. I recommend tube feeding. You have way too many risks for aspiration if you use a bottle. And they have to be kept warm. So if you had to separate your puppies from mom, let's say she had milk, but she wound up with some abscesses, and she had to be separated so that her body could heal some. Well, if they're older, at that point you would be bottle feeding. If they're like I said, if they're itty bitty, it's tube feeding. That's your safest bet to avoid aspiration. Gosh, there's so many things that can go wrong. This is that part of me where it's like, please don't get a dog because you think you're gonna make money by having a litter or two. That is just not. It's not accurate. It's not. And the work that goes in, I mean, and I've heard it. People will come and say, oh gosh, no, you don't have to worry. I don't want to breed. I did it one time and that was enough for me. I don't want to do it again. I've heard that more times than I'd like to say. And that's good. I mean, at least they got the experience they wanted, but they also realized very quickly that experience was a lot harder than what they had planned for. So yeah, male dogs, and I have to go back to that because I do have several males. I have a couple of boys that are neutered. Their temperament, their behavior is awesome. They're awesome. They're great. They're wonderful. I have no problems. Boys that are intact, oh boy. Yep. Girl comes in heat, it's like they go crazy. I mean, they can smell her a mile away. They will cry and whine and carry on. And I mean, it can be pretty miserable. There have been a few times where I've had a boy start up in the middle of the night and start in on that whining and crying because that's all he's thinking about is getting to that girl. Getting to that girl. So he whines and cries and whines and cries all blessed night long. And it doesn't matter what I do. That's no fun. That is absolutely no fun. But boys that are intact absolutely are different from boys that are not. I'm not going to tell you that it's a bad thing to keep them intact. That's personal preference. You bet. But what I will tell you is there is a difference from a dog that has been neutered versus a dog that is intact. Noticeable difference. And when you have them intact and you're determined to leave them intact, you don't know that difference until you've actually gone through the process and had them neutered, and then you're like, gosh, why didn't I do this sooner? I mean, and that's what it typically is. Why didn't I do this sooner? Why did I wait? And that's the other, if you have a male and you were thinking about breeding and now you're going, maybe I won't, get him fixed. The longer you wait, the harder it will be on the dog as far as, being neutered. And it's not just necessarily the surgery, but the longer those hormones are in, the harder it is for the hormones to be gone. So if your dog is just a year and you're just now, having that discussion of, do we want to breed this dog or do we want to get him neutered? A year is a good time, absolutely, unless it's a giant breed. If it's a giant breed, wait a little longer. But if you, average, medium, large dog, you've reached a year, I'm telling you, do it then. If you wait longer, the longer you wait, the stronger those hormones are and the more they are in their body. So the older the dog, the more the hormones, and therefore when you do neuter, it will take longer to see the noticeable change from being neutered. So, and what I mean by that is the hormones stay in their body and they'll hang out for a while even though they've been neutered, and it'll take a while before they're all completely out of their system. But going back to the whole raising of puppies, you gotta think here. Mom nurses them until they are somewhere between 5-6 weeks of age. Once they're 5 and 6, you now have the job of cleaning up every single poop, pee, every mess, and the fair warning, they step in it, they smear it. I've had it where I've had a puppy fall asleep and another puppy who had to go to the bathroom, didn't go in the right place, but literally backs up and poops right on top of the other puppy. Yep, I've had that. It's ugly, it's nasty, it's smelly, it's gross, it's no fun. Something else I've had, moms delivering babies, all that good stuff. Well, a week or two in, and the mom cleans up after all these babies all the time. So the mom is in charge of cleaning them up. Sometimes moms get sick too. And if it's the middle of the night, and I've got a few moms that they're not going to wake me up. They're not going to let me know. That's just the way they are. They're not going to let me know. And I've had moms that will have an accident right in the middle of the whelping box. And sometimes I'm lucky and she keeps all the puppies away, and sometimes I am not so lucky. And I wake up to, 7, 8 puppies that are absolutely disgusting, sludgy, gross, nasty, requiring a bath first thing in the morning. And it smells and it's disgusting. So no, this, yeah, unfortunately people think that it's so easy. Gosh, let's see. Something else, something that I have noticed, undoubtedly. Dogs that have been raised in a regular home, that have not been around other intact dogs. So, meaning, if you have a girl, and that's all you have, and they've come into heat, and they've come into heat a second time and a third time, and you're going, oh, I really want a litter of puppies, and you think that they're going to accept a boy dog. Again, not likely at all. And that's another sad component to it, because some people think that just because they're a pet, they'll be fine, they'll be willing. No, they won't. If they haven't been around other dogs, and specifically opposite gender, so if you have a female and she is not used to a male dog and their behavior of wanting to climb and ride and be on them, they're not going to take to it when they're in heat at all. They won't. They turn into snapping alligators. I've seen it because my nephew and niece, I gave them a couple of girl dogs that were puppies and had them raise them, and they wanted to have that same experience. So these were my dogs, raised here, born here, raised here. Gave them the puppies, they raised the puppies. But when it came down to it, they're girls, they're not used to a boy dog. So whenever we tried to put a boy dog with them, They were, I mean, I hate to say the word vicious, but it looks vicious. If you didn't know better, you would think they were being vicious. But it's dog communication. I mean, they were telling, the boy that this is not what they wanted. This is absolutely not it. And they don't know. But what they do know is that, they got something going on at the other end that smells funny to them. And I'm sure their body feels funny because of all the hormones. And they do behave funny, I will tell you, girls in heat. But a boy that they've never met, now suddenly you've introduced them to this boy who wants to ride them and mount them and do all of this. They're terrified. Most of the time, girls that have been raised in a regular house and never been around another male dog, they're terrified. They do not like it. They are scared. They tend to snap and bite and snarl and bare teeth. So, just if you're raising a pet, raise a pet. If you really are serious and you wanted to go into breeding and and that's your intent, then you got to start from the very beginning and set it up that way. Meaning, don't just go out and buy any dog and think that because you spent $1,500 that, well, it doesn't matter. It was health tested. And the boy over there, he was health tested, so we don't need to worry about it. We'll just put them together. Don't do it. Please don't do that. Health testing has gotten a whole lot cheaper, about $150 per dog. When I began health testing years ago, I was spending between $300 and $400 per dog. So it has come down tremendously from what it once was. But if you are going to embark on this, you need to do the health testing, and then you need to understand what all of that testing means, what it means for the dog, and what it means for you in terms of breeding. You should know, you should have good input on color genetics. Color genetics plays a role with blindness, deafness. Oh, let's see, sorry about that. My phone just keeps going off and going off and going off. I'm like, all right, too many text messages, too many people, too much going on. But listen, going back to this, if you're looking to have one litter, you will not gain financially if you do it right. You won't. You won't. And it could be a total failure, and it could be awful, and the experience could be awful. And the whole idea, because I will get those calls in the interest of, but I have kids, and I really wanted them to experience birth of puppies and have that. There's that piece of me that's going, are your kids going to be okay if a puppy dies? Are they going to be okay if the mama dog needs surgery? Are they going to be able to handle if things don't go the way that you're planning? Because, we mentally plan. I can tell you with my first pregnancy, I mentally planned for delivery. I planned for things to go right. And that's not the way it went. I was hospitalized at week 20, and I had a terrible, terrible, terrible delivery. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. So the idea that this is going to be great for your kids, sure, except for one thing. You may not realize that things sometimes don't go great, and things can go wrong. And if you're not financially equipped to handle what goes wrong, you'd really be in a bind. And essentially get yourself into further debt if you weren't prepared. Emergency spay, yep, over $1,000. And I say spay because if it's an emergency cesarean, that's what it'll be. Your dog will get spayed at the end of the cesarean. You would have puppies delivered by way of cesarean. It would be totally, it's not fun. You do want to consider some of these aspects before you jump in and say, oh, I know my dog is perfect. And I've heard that one so many times, guys. I hate it. Because then what I typically will say is, oh, okay, well, tell me what health testing you have. Tell me what you know. And most of the time, people have no clue. They say, well, I bought her from a reputable breeder. Okay. Again, what health testing? Don't do it. Get yourself your health testing before you even consider it. I do get asked that whole, will you stud to my dog? No, I won't. I'm sorry. I'm too concerned about brucellosis, that being the first thing. Second thing, I've worked too hard to be in this position. My most recent purchase, meaning because you can't just keep breeding the same dogs over and over and over. You can't. It's just not feasible. You can't do it. But my most recent purchase to add in came from Montenegro, came from Yugoslavia. And I paid a ton of money. I have continued to pay because I've obviously finished his health testing, and now we're working toward our just growing and training and doing what we do. But no, I've gone out of my way to try to do things right. And no, I'm not going to take risks. I'm not going to breed somebody else's dog. I'm not going to, I'll help. If I feel like somebody needs my help, I will help to guide you in the right direction. But no, I will not risk anything with my dogs. And the same thing goes with the question of, I want to visit, can I bring my dog with me? Okay. Any good breeder is going to tell you, no, you cannot bring your dog. What I typically tell people is, if you can't leave them at home, then that means that they will need to stay in the car. And if they're staying in the car, then your time here is limited because, for the obvious, an animal doesn't need to be sitting in a car. But no, I will not allow someone else's dog on my property. I will not allow interaction with puppies with someone else's. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it. Brucellosis scares me. If I took my dogs to the dog park, I would be risking my dogs. I would be risking future litters. Because like I told you, brucellosis it's an STD and there is no cure. So if your dog has it, they have it for life. There's no getting rid of it. And the recommendation, it's this is terrible to even say it, but the recommendation for a kennel that winds up getting it. So a breeder that somehow or another winds up getting brucellosis on their property. They wind up, the dog, whatever, a couple dogs catch it. What's recommended is actually euthanizing all animals that are infected. And that's just not, that's not something that I care to endure, ever. So for that reason, no, I don't allow dogs here. I do babysit other people's dogs, most of which are my past dogs, and I have restrictions on it, meaning I can only take a couple of dogs. I can't take a whole bunch because they don't get mixed. They will not go with my general population. They do come in my house, so yes, they kind of cross paths, but they are not going to wind up being nose to nose or nose to butt, sniffing each other. They are separated while they are here. They are walked on my property across the street. So my dogs that I have here, we have a huge fenced-in area outside. On this side of the property, on that side of the property is a whole nother place. And that's where we walk all of our babysitting jobs, because we do not need to expose all the dogs to the babysitting jobs. It's just not, it's silly. And I've, like I said, you see Jenny's here. well, she's not going to wind up being nose to nose or nose to butt with any of my other dogs. So if you're considering breeding, please take your time. Don't rush that decision. It's a big deal. It's a very big deal. Yeah, it's a very big deal. Oh, goodness. So, yeah, Miss Jenny is almost, I've gotten this, kind of this half of the body done. And I'm using, let me share with you, this is the Mars Coat King. It is a very awesome tool. If you have a dog that has an undercoat, this will pull all the undercoat off, out of the coat. Now, right now she's too short, but before I began, I actually went through her and got any of the loose hairs using this. So this is what I've been using before I began shaving her down. And then with shaving her down, I'm using, this is a number 4 blade. And a number 4 is 9.5 millimeters versus a 10. There's my 10. The 10 is a whole lot shorter, 1.5. The 10 is great for in between the paws, under the chin in some of those places, underneath the ears, places where you're not going to see because it is really, really short, sanitary. This is for the main coat. As you watch, I'm going this way, the direction of the hair. I'm not going this way. If I go this way, we'll make it a whole lot shorter, and I will leave lines in her coat. So we're not going to leave lines. We're going to go with the flow of the hair, so as it goes down. And then of course we have our beautiful tail and our ears and our face, and the face underneath, again, just like I've always reminded everybody, but under here, this gunky mess, there's that little pivot piece, and then it's coming out, and it is just shooey. It's icky. It's got to come off. So all of this is going to come off. She's having a dental done soon. I got to show you. So I was looking, and see, she's got some tartar buildup on this one. But she has it way back in the back. If you notice tartar buildup and your dog doesn't like a toothbrush, take a washcloth, wrap it around your finger, and get it wet, and take that end and sit there and rub on their teeth on those spots to loosen it. And you probably can get a good deal of tartar off using that method. And then obviously if you can get your dog to chew on some things, then get yourself some stuff for them to chew on, because the more chewing they do, the less likely that they're going to need that dental. And I say truly, my guy Max, he's an old boy now, he's 11. He loves to chew. He does. And his teeth are absolutely perfect. I have never had to do a dental. I don't think I ever will, just because he does like to chew. Dogs that like to chew, it's far more beneficial to prevent needing to have a dental done on their teeth. Dogs that don't chew, you have to go out of your way to clean up the teeth, because if they're not chewers, that tartar is going to build up. Yeah, one other thing with chewing, as far as keeping the teeth clean, if you give wet food, they're going to have tartar buildup. Don't give wet food. These guys don't need wet food. Now, obviously, if you have an older dog that doesn't have teeth, then you're going to need to give wet food. But for the most part, a young, healthy dog doesn't need wet food. It's just going to get gunked up all over their teeth. It's not good for them. So, yeah, if you're going to breed, again, please, 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 take your time. Think long and hard. Make sure you're financially capable. because things could get very expensive. And if you have just a pet and it's a female and she's never experienced the whole male thing, you may find it to be far more miserable than what you thought. You might. So when dogs breed, they end up in a tie and they're stuck together. And if your girl doesn't like it, she might bark and holler. She might cry. She might try to run away. There's so many things that can happen. And I hate to say I've seen most of them, but I've seen pretty much everything I'm telling you I've seen and experienced it, and it's not fun. So, all right, one more story before I go, because it's honestly this is the funniest thing that I think I've had. My youngest son has always helped me. All my kids help me, but my youngest, he was in the room and I had one of my girls was delivering, and I said, now I've got to run outside, honey. Can you please keep an eye on her? Stay here with her. And if you see a puppy come out, he has a clue what to do to wipe it off and all that stuff. He has a clue. He knows what he's doing. So, but he hadn't really been part of that. When the mama dog pushes the puppies out, it's usually I hand it off to him. Not that he's there to assist. So he's looking at me and he said, no, Mom, he said, what's it going to be like when she pushes one out? And I said, it's no big deal. She's fine. She's done this before. Well, no sooner that I said that, the dog stood up, turned around, literally put her butt this far away from my son, gave one really good push, and I've never seen it. A puppy flew out of her. It was like, and of course, the splatter and the spray that wound up on my son, and his eyes as big as marbles. He looked at me and he said, Mom, does that happen every time? Oh my gosh. I about to have died laughing on the spot. No, it doesn't happen like that every time, kiddo. Yeah, that was an experience. But yes, the puppy came flying. They normally don't fly out. It's normally nice and slow. Yeah, no. Nope. She pushed one out and it came flying out at him. It was funny. Oh my, it was funny. I tell you what. So, all right, guys, I've got to get her done, and maybe I'll include do some fast-paced video to show the rest of her getting done. But yeah, if you're considering breeding, really, really think long and hard. Make sure you're financially set. Make sure you're in the situation. You've done the health testing. The daddy you're considering has the health testing. Make sure you do everything right. Don't just stick two dogs together because they're really nice. It's the best dog I've ever had. I've heard that. It's the best dog. Might be the best dog you've ever had. But until you know the health testing, just don't do it. 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 Get all your ducks in a row before you even consider that. So, oh, you don't want me to do your paw? You're fine. I just want to straighten it up. It was looking funny. You're a good girl. So, all right, guys. Well, it was lovely, and please visit my website, subscribe to my channel, and gosh, give me an idea. What else can I cover? Because I've got ideas, but there's so many more things to cover. And I know I've had people ask for advice on training, jumping up, things like that. I'll cover some of that. Can't cover some of it while I'm grooming because it's better to actually have demonstration. But if I can cover a topic while I'm grooming, I will. And yeah, so guys, it was great. I'll talk to you soon. Take care. So she's done. I did want to show that she's done, and she's so pretty. Can you look at the camera and say, I've got my eyelashes. See these beautiful eyelashes? I always leave eyelashes. Eyelashes are so beautiful. You're beautiful. So you're all done, and you're going to go home. You'll go home with your mommy now. Yes, you will. You're all done. You're very beautiful, aren't you? Yes, you are. Yes. So, my sweet girl, Miss Jenny. Miss Jenny is all done. And so we'll see you next time, huh? See you next time. Mwah. She's so sweet. She's so sweet. Yes, she is. Oh, I love you too. I love you too. I love you too. She's so sweet. So I wanted to show you because she's done now and ready to go home. She doesn't get to stay here with me. Nope, not anymore. Not anymore. You live just down the street. You live just down the street from me, don't you? Yes, you do. So, all right, guys. See you next time.